Sit down and listen to this.
When you're caught up in darkness and feel surrounded by it, suffocated even, everything seems miserable, with no viable options, and the only choice being to sink deeper. Remember, darkness cannot exist without light. There is always something, somewhere. No matter how bad things seem, there is always a reason for optimism, a path forward that you just aren't seeing yet, or are actively trying to ignore. It's easy to get caught up in the woe is me, and feel like the whole world is against you, everyone else is crazy, and you're the one who is sane. Usually, when you start to think this way, it's not the world that's crazy. If you wake up in the morning and don't like what you see, be the change you want to see in the world. Group together with like-minded people, online and in person. This doesn't mean your group is right and that every other group is wrong. In fact, you are going to be wrong a lot more than you are right, but that doesn't make you stupid. All you can do is aim to act in a way that is in line with your values and use the best information you have available to you at the time. Avoid infringing on the rights or values of your neighbor. Having different values doesn't make yours or theirs righteous. And most importantly, think. Think about every action you have ever taken, every word you have ever said, every word you have ever thought. Once you understand this, think about why you think that way, and think about if that way of thinking is optimal or needs to be changed. Whatever you then decide, think about if you were correct in your assumption, and begin to think again about every thought, every action, every subconscious flinch with this updated way of thinking. Train yourself to think in real time when you interact with people. In particular, when one of or both of you are acting emotionally, think about how you are acting. Think about how you are thinking. And later, once the situation has long since ended and you have cooled off, think about this again and update your way of thinking as needed. One great exercise for this is to ask why 5 times. As an example, why am I making this video? Because I have spent a lot of time thinking on these ideas, and I want to share them with as many people as possible, in as short a time as possible. Given that I truly believe it to be optimal and useful for at least a majority of people. Why? Because it seems to me that people spend too much time talking and not enough time thinking. When people group together, different ways of thinking and new ideas are crushed. There is an innate psychological pressure for conformity, fitting in with a group and not rocking the boat. The bigger the group, the larger this pressure becomes, perhaps even logarithmically. So as we move into bigger cities and further from our roots, replacing groups of 150 or so inhabitants to skyscrapers housing tens of thousands, single streets housing more humans than existed on all of Earth at some points in history, my question is, how do we coexist and thrive as a species? The conclusion I consistently come to is we need to think. Being distracted by drugs, sex, video games, television, social media, dead-end jobs, and a whole lot more damages you far more than you know. And it is my opinion that only a large portion of humanity learning how to think can level up humanity. Why? Because after studying evolutionary psychology and my own thought patterns, then comparing all of this to the world around me as well as listening to and talking to other people all around the world, it became obvious to me that we are not living in the way nature intended for us, constantly overstimulated, overcrowded, with no space to be alone with your thoughts, away from possibly the worst human pollution, noise pollution. Being in silence with only the sounds of the wind, the birds, and your thoughts is something too few experience, and something I recommend highly. If we are to live in a way that is alien to our ancestors, we need to achieve something they could not. We need to expand our way of thinking and meaningfully teach people to think. Why? Intelligence is described as the ability to learn, in other words, to adapt. We have searched close to the entire Earth, and more recently even some other worlds in our quest to understand and to try to find signs of other intelligent life. Some call this a pointless waste of time and resources. I call these people unimaginative. According to the Kardashev scale, there are 3 types of technological progress for a species, with the first having mastery of their home planet, the second, mastery of their solar system, and the third, mastery of entire galaxies. Humanity so far has not evolved far enough to register on this scale. Maybe you can be generous and call us 0.2. Progression on this scale and others seems to me at least to only be possible by massively disrupting our current systems, by disrupting our own nature, thinking creatively and problem solving, not problem creating. Why? Our current systems promote performing a task with the least effort required and to the lowest possible standard without risking some kind of social punishment. How many jobs have you had in which you have watched people stand around doing nothing, pushing pencils, and looking just barely busy enough not to be noticed? How often do you read up on the plans of local governments for new roads, or to demolish some building or statue, and wonder who could possibly decide this was a good idea? Every time you turn on the news or read an article, you see the theater of each side blaming the other, neither taking responsibility for its own very obvious faults and shortcomings. How long can this continue? Is it the responsibility of every individual to make some amount of noise, any amount of noise, start some small amount of dialogue to try to begin to resolve this? In my opinion, yes, it is a responsibility of all of us to take humanity to its destination in the stars. And I think that we do that by thinking. I hope that you can agree, or at minimum, offer an alternative solution. That's why I've made this video, and why I have published it, to hopefully get people thinking about thinking, or at least open discussions that didn't already exist. When you practice this technique of asking why 5 times, in many cases your answers will be more simple, and usually, if you are being honest, involve the desire for social reward or avoidance of social punishment, finding love interests or new friends, and basic survival mechanisms like needing to go to work to buy food. But you can still find a lot of value in thinking about such answers. Why is that the social reward you want? Why do you fear that particular social punishment? Why is that certain friend or love interest the one you want to impress? Why is this the job that you have? Could you find a more meaningful job? A more meaningful group of friends? A more meaningful social reward? Once you ask these questions, you can optimize your actions and put yourself in situations which allow for your goals to become your reality. It is also extremely important to note that you are an average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So pick these people very carefully. Surround yourself with people you consider better than yourself, smarter, funnier, more athletic, more charismatic, more generous, or whatever traits you value and want to optimize for. Treasure these people and treat them with the value they deserve. Don't worry if you have more than 5. It is suggested that historically, humans can maintain 5 close relationships, 15 friendships, and 150 associates. These numbers are not gospel, but will be useful to help you decide who fits where in your life and which relationships deserve the most attention. Also realize that you also need to create value for them. It is not a one-way street. Good people will not stick around if you take from them and provide nothing in return. There are 3 main benefits to having relationships with other people, and a good relationship will contain all of these: financial benefit, emotional benefit, and physical benefit. So for example, you might go to the gym with your best friend, so this is your physical benefit. You can also talk to him or her about any problems you're having. This is your emotional benefit. And maybe one day you forget your wallet, so your friend buys a drink for you, being, of course, the financial benefit. which, by the way, I also highly recommend you go to a gym at minimum 3 days a week for an hour or more per session. Use the principle of thinking about thinking to decide which relationships are good for you and which aren't. If you worry you are being too harsh, most likely it is an emotional but not useful relationship which you are afraid to let go of. Fear is your friend. It tells you where the lines are. Right when you are on the edge of change, looking at everything you could be, fear will try to drag you back. Learn to embrace this. Enjoy it even. You are now in control of your own destiny. Conscious of your subconscious mind, with a newfound ability to stop being your own worst enemy and get out of your own way. I fear not the man who defeats 1,000 men in battle, but the man who defeats himself. The pen is more powerful than the sword. Improve your way of thinking. If you can't think, then write. If you can't write, then speak. Have difficult conversations. Listen to and truly consider what people say to you. Strive to be the best version of yourself every day. Impress those around you and lift up those you value. In the same way, they lift you. Work hard. Think harder. Spend your free time doing things, having conversations, experiencing new things, playing sports, hiking, reason with yourself, and decide what you need to start doing and what you need to stop doing. Make it as easy as possible to do things that are good for you and as inconvenient as possible to do things that are bad for you. Thanks for watching.